podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Now just 4 teams remain, and by the end of this week, we'll know which 2 are going on to contest Super Bowl 60. For the Buffalo Bills, the season is over, and so too is Sean McDermott's 9-year stay as head coach. The Broncos are the team who moved on, but they'll do so without starting quarterback Bo Nix, ruled out with a season-ending ankle injury. While elsewhere, the Seahawks thrashed the 49ers, the Patriots outdueled the Texans, and the Rams edged a thriller in Chicago. It's time for the AFC and NFC champions to be crowned. So let's turn the page and look ahead to Championship Weekend in the NFL.
Graves on Gridiron with Richard Graves.
Hello, welcome along to the show. This is Graves on Gridiron. I am your host, Richard Graves, once again joined from all the way from India by sports broadcaster, you're not a long-suffering Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan, Charles Dagnall. You won a Super Bowl in the last 5 years. That's good enough for me. But it's great to see you anyway.
Great to be here as well. I've changed. I'm not next to the pool this time. We've moved from Mumbai to Vadodara in Gujarat, and we came here last year. It's a great place. It's busy, and we're right in the mixer as well. One thing I will say to you though, Richard, and I'm sure listeners may understand that for someone from the UK going out to certain parts of India, this is a dry state, so you're not able to get a drink. Now I'm not one of life's big drinkers, but then when you're denied something, that you crave it. You crave it a little bit. I don't drink a great deal at all, but part of me sort of thinks, I could really do with a beer, but I can't. But the place is absolutely sensational. I love it here. The stadium's magnificent. And looking forward to the second half of the Women's Premier League that we're covering. But the bonus is the Wi-Fi here is sensational, and I caught every single snap of every single divisional round game.
That is diligence for you. And I'm delighted you bring that up, because often you crave things to compensate for losses in other areas. And speaking of losses, we haven't yet mentioned our records from divisional round weekend. Daggers, we started it with you.
I needed a big weekend.
Well, we started it following the wildcard weekend. Your record was 500 against the line, even 3-3. Yeah. I was 4-2. Our big difference of opinion came on the 2 games on Saturday in the divisional round. And it's fair to say I was once again perfect. 2-0 against the line. You were 0-2, Daggers. What does that mean? It means that after the weekend, your record now stands in deficit at 4-5. I am 7-3, and better than that, I am going to brag about this because it doesn't happen that often. In outright picks through the first 10 games of this year's playoffs, I have a perfect 10-0 record. Daggers, the floor is yours.
Well, I could really do with a beer to drown my sorrows in this. And the fact is, and I remember the post on Instagram that I put about your smugness. I couldn't even bring myself. I couldn't even pick up my phone to bring myself to message you something, knowing full well that you tip the balance yet again in the Saturday games. But I also know that you like a little bit of controversy. You wanted me to put my neck on the block. That I did. My neck is now severed from the rest of my body, given it. But you want people who have got the willingness to do so, and that is what I did, albeit in the wrong way. But goodness me, I don't know about you, Richard. Half of the games I thought were 2 of the 4 games were absolutely scintillating affairs. Obviously, the blowout will come to, especially from Seattle, San Francisco. But I thought wildcard weekend had a little bit more gusto about it than this weekend did. Still, however, it was absorbing stuff, don't you reckon?
I completely agree with you. And the bizarre thing is, usually we look at the divisional round in the playoffs and say that this is the weekend when you get the best football. And there were a couple of games that were tight. There was a bit of controversy involved, but they were must-see TV. You couldn't take your eyes off the screen. I've got to say that the 49ers going up to the Pacific Northwest, 1 game too far for San Francisco. Well documented their injury issues this year. well documented as well, not least by us on this show, the job that Robert Saleh's done as defensive coordinator in San Francisco, with so many players taken away from him due to injury. And he looks like he is going to be rewarded for that. I believe we're recording this on Tuesday morning, UK time. An announcement from Tennessee is imminent that Robert Saleh will become their new head coach and get a crack at that position again next season. So all power to him. Well deserved. Elsewhere, I've got to say that the New England Patriots Houston Texans game, this was the one being bigged up all week long by the experts, certainly stateside, as a defensive battle. It was going to be traditional football. It was as sloppy as the weather in Foxborough, from my perspective. The two teams combined for 8 turnovers. I actually put on my X account at the half in that game, is it time for Davis Mills? That's how bad C.J. Stroud played in that game. I could scarcely believe my eyes.
And do you know what? I was genuinely watching that game, Richard, thinking exactly the same thing. Because Davis Mills, when he came in for C.J. Stroud when he was injured during the season, went 3-0. Now, I'm not saying that this, but you can see when someone is just complete, their head's gone. And when you're throwing 3 picks that early, and this sort of stems from the fact of the previous game where he lost, 2 or 3 snaps in the shotgun formation. He had a fumbling issue in the previous game, even though they won it. And then he's thrown 3 picks relatively early. And I'm just thinking, this is not happening for you. You've got to make a change. And a defensive unit is fine, as good as the Texans are, but you're going to need to rest them a little bit. You know, Will Anderson can't be just rushing for 70, 80 plays a game or whatever it is, given that the offense can't do anything with the ball. And they're back on the field because the offense keeps giving it away. So you need a little bit of parity. A defense isn't just going to win you and score you the points.
What I will say about the Texans defense, I thought they were outstanding. I could be wrong, but certainly well into the fourth quarter, I think the stat was through 4 or 5 turnovers, certainly 4, the Patriots had only scored 7 points. And they'd got some of those turnovers with great field position. Mm-hmm. The difference in the game was Drake May tried to force the ball a little bit less than C.J. Stroud. It was the winner came out of the quarterback that made the fewest mistakes. And I think as happy as everybody in New England, and Mike Vrabel certainly was the head coach of the Patriots at the end of the game, I'm sure this week that will be a point of emphasis going up to Denver, and we'll talk about that shortly. Elsewhere, I'm going to finish our roundup by talking about the game between the Broncos and the Bills. But let's first of all just sit back and enjoy a tremendous NFC divisional playoff clash in the outdoor elements. Freezing cold tundra in Chicago. And again, 2 great defensive performances, but just sprinkled with a touch of quarterback magnificence from both Matthew Stafford and especially at the end of regulation, Caleb Williams.
I mean, the play he made, it's 4th down. He's backing up. He must have backed up 20 yards. And then just out of the corner of the eye, seeing Cole Kmet he didn't push off, but he was hand fighting with the defensive back. And just see that little gap for him to hurl the ball. And when the players made and Chicago goes nuts and we're going to overtime. And it was, I mean, I almost jumped off the bed. I have to watch it on the bed here. So I almost jumped off the bed watching that. And defensively, it was, and someone tweeted, I don't know who it was, it might have been some figure of authority in government in the United States or whatever it is, who's sort of saying, hey, look, playoff games should be played in a dome because that equals everything up. No, man!
Not at all. There's a reason you get home field advantage.
Exactly right. And I'd be sad to see some of these cold weather teams go exclusively into domed stadium. And I understand it to a degree because they then get the opportunity to use them sort of year-round or whatever for other events in the wintertime and stuff. And I get the sort of financial side of it. But for football, you know, going up to Green Bay, going to Chicago, New England, New York, the Pacific Northwest, all of these aspects make football. And as you say, going to Denver, can you imagine a domed stadium? It just would seem so ridiculous. And so the weather and the elements do make it. And I think that is something that why you strive to get the number one seed, and that what makes for a neutral the sort of fun of it. You don't know if someone's going to slip and fumble or slip down in coverage and leave someone wide open. I just think that would be a terrible, terrible thing. But goodness me, I mean, watching that, and given the way that Chicago had moved the ball in the first 3 quarters of the game, I didn't see Chicago making that drive the way they did, but they have been a fourth quarter team all year. And to take
let's put some context around it. That final drive, they're trailing by 7, and they move easily inside the LA Rams 15-yard line. It then stalls, and it's 4th down on the Rams' own 14-yard line. And to put some context on just the skill and natural talents involved, I saw a Next Gen Stats put out there. That ball from Caleb Williams to Cole Kmet traveled 51.3 yards in the air. If you haven't seen it, go on social media, find the clip, because he snaps the ball at 14. He is almost on the midfield logo, having literally turned his back to the Rams end zone at one point before falling away into the corner, and he drops it in the basket. And one other thing, you'll appreciate this, Daggers, a big shout out to one of, if not the best play-by-play caller in sport right now, Kevin Harlan, with absolute pandemonium on Westwood One going around him in a sold-out Soldier Field, described everything clearly, concisely, conveyed the excitement and the skill involved. One of the best play calls I've ever heard.
That is how you do radio. If you were to put a clinic on, when there is so much going on, and to be as clear and understood. And I obviously watched the play on television, and then you sent me the play call from Kevin Harlan. And so you know what you're getting, kind of thing, and you know what's happening in the play, and the way that it is exactly what radio is about. He puts you there. He is your eyes. And that would have been just as satisfying listening to that as it would have been watching it. That's how good a call it was from Kevin Harlan. And I've got to say that it's a lot of hard work goes into doing something like that, but also, there are so many factors. But do go and listen to it. I'm with you. Go and listen to the play call, because it is a stunning piece of broadcast.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more. Let's finish up then in a mile-high city, Denver, Colorado. What a game between the Denver Broncos and the Buffalo Bills. The Bills ultimately outlasted, destined for heartbreak again in overtime in the playoffs. But the big call of the game for me, the pass downfield that would have put the Bills in position to win the game and proceed to the AFC Championship game. Brandon Cooks on the reception, ripped away from him as he falls to the ground by McMillan, the DB. It was called on the field, no hesitation, an interception. My honest opinion, Daggers, I think it's an interception. But I understand, especially when you slow the footage down, why other people were saying, well, hang on, he's got 2 hands on the ball, his shin and knee hits the ground, surely that's a completed catch. I don't think it is by the rules of the NFL. What were your thoughts?
I thought that both of the decisions of the contested catches that we saw over the weekend, I thought they nailed both of them. These are not easy things to get right. Even when you slow them down to the nth degree, there is conjecture and there is opinion, and you've got to try and basically make a decision based on the facts and the laws of the game. And as much as I thought at first I thought his body and knee was down, and he's been ripped away while he's on the floor, and they would have reviewed it, called it a catch. That was what I was thinking at first. They would have reviewed it, call it a catch. This is going to get overturned. That was on first look. And on second look and on replay, they got the call absolutely right. 100% right. And for those fans who are bemoaning the fact on both of those contested catches, if they were supporting the sides that caught the ball. I don't think you can argue it in the cold light of day. There has to be an element of control. There has to be sort of possession for a sort of for a beat, doesn't it? And there wasn't that. Ball was still moving and the DB ripping the ball out. And I agree with you on this. I don't have any problem. In the height and the intensity of battle and for what is being played for and your season on the line, I get the sort of controversy, but I don't really think there is any controversy given the fact I thought both of the calls, after the numerous replays from every conceivable angle and how the law is written, I think they got them both right. You said you agree? Is that how you felt at the time?
Yeah. Let's be really clear. The rules on a catch were changed after the divisional round playoff game. I think it was 2015 season when, or maybe 2014 season actually. Now I think about it, when the Cowboys went to Lambeau Field to play the Green Bay Packers. Remember the Dez caught it, didn't catch it. It was called on the field a touchdown. It was overturned on review. The difference there is Dez Bryant grabs the ball, makes a footballing move, and then the ground causes the fumble. So they changed the rule. Here, there's no footballing move by Brandon Cox. Yes, he gets two hands on the ball, but he's going to the ground. And as he goes to the ground, even though his knee hits, the ball's ripped away from him. It's a great defensive play. And one of the other criticisms you heard from Sean McDermott, who we'll get on to shortly, was that it all happened too quickly. There should be more time. That's why he called a timeout. I think it speaks to the professionalism and expertise of the officiating crew, both on the field in Denver and then back in New York, that they were able to make the call so quickly, expedite it, and get it right. That's my opinion, and it brings us nicely on to Sean McDermott, who 24 hours ago was told thanks, but no thanks. After 9 years, he's out of Buffalo following that defeat. You look at his record, 9 years as head coach in Buffalo, 8 times he took them to the playoffs, 5 AFC East title divisional wins, a 98-50 record over those 9 seasons. But crucially, not only did he not win a Super Bowl, he never even got them to the Super Bowl. Once losing in the wildcard round, 4 times now in the divisional round, and 2 AFC championship losses. Were you surprised?
I was. And then I had a good long think about it. And look, I think Sean McDermott's going to be out of work for about 5 minutes.
Absolutely.
It reminds me, and I hate to go back to my Buccaneers fandom, but it reminds me of when Tony Dungy was the head coach of Tampa Bay. And he got them to, the playoffs on numerous occasions. He had this fantastic defense, but he just couldn't quite get them over the hump. And he was fired. He was let go, and it was a very sad time for a lot of Bucs fans because we loved Tony Dungy. But also, we were thinking that this is our prime window of making a Super Bowl. And then they brought in John Gruden, and that very next season, he got us to the Super Bowl and won it. And it reminds me a little bit of this, is there something stopping Sean McDermott in this particular instance? Or, there was a lot of conversation as well about Brandon Beane, the fact that he's not really surrounded, bar James Cook, he's not really surrounded Josh Allen with that many weapons. And therefore, he's having to put on the Superman cape and do it himself the majority of the time. So,
this is the controversy as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because following this announcement, Brandon Beane actually has been promoted.
Yeah, and so I'm a bit it's a bit odd to me that, now, look, I can understand it, and I don't have any problem. I was surprised. I don't have any problem Buffalo doing that. They don't want to waste prime Josh Allen. They've got a certain window, and they feel that this is time to make a change. I don't have any problem with it. I don't also think that Sean McDermott is a bad coach, and I think he's going to go somewhere who are struggling, and he's going to turn them around because he did that with the Buffalo Bills. They're a bit like John Harbaugh. Look at John Harbaugh and the amount of playoff he's been to with Lamar Jackson, but he just can't get him to the Super Bowl. And so they have made these decisions. That does mean, of course, that high-quality coaching is Mike Tomlin. It's another one who consistently makes the playoffs with the Steelers, but hasn't got them to the Super Bowl recently. So therefore, you've got some high-quality coaching talent actually on the market. Now, we know that John Harbaugh has been snapped up by the New York Giants. I just wonder, had he waited a bit, if he might have been going up to Buffalo.
Kevin Stefanski might be doing the same as well.
Well, very much so, as him being in Atlanta now. So there is some high-profile coaches available. There are some high-profile openings available, and I think if you are genuinely the Arizona Cardinals, the Tennessee Titans. Now, we've talked about Tennessee and Robert Saleh, and I think, a guy who is a high-quality coach who's had a head coaching experience before, that's probably going to be a good fit. I think there's other things as well, just on the coaching carousel. A lot of people are wondering what Mike McDaniel... I know that Tampa Bay are desperate to get Mike McDaniel as their offensive coordinator with a view to potentially making him head coach down the line, and they're going to throw millions at him. But might you just want a head coaching gig now? Cleveland is a very good option, they say, for Mike McDaniel to turn that offense around, or maybe to work with a new quarterback or the one that's already there in Shedeur Sanders. So I think regarding Buffalo, I'm not surprised, but I wonder who's out there for them to maybe make that leap. Word on the street is maybe Brian Dable. That's
the name I've been hearing banding around.
And there was another one, Davis Webb, who is with Sean Payton, I think, at Denver. I think I've got this right. Sean, and he actually was the backup with Josh Allen for a few years up at Buffalo. So maybe there's an opportunity, but a little surprised. And then at the same time, not necessarily. How do you think it's going to pan out for Buffalo now?
Well, there's a couple of things on the back of the points you've made there, valid points, Daggers. One is the pair of us on this podcast 2 weeks ago ahead of the wildcard round actually spoke about this, that Sean McDermott was on the hot seat, and if he didn't win in Jacksonville, that could be the end. I'd heard murmurings 12 months ago, and they decided to stick with him. So in that respect... What was I surprised? Yeah, I was a little bit, because he got to the divisional round and the manner in which they lost the game seemed harsh. But also there were red flags. You listen to his comments post-game, a little bit out of the ordinary for him to complain so openly, so readily about the officiating. And then he gave another interview following that post-game press conference as well, which certainly raised my eyebrows. And ultimately, it's his record that the Buffalo Bills have cited. And he put it into context, and you can see why. In the Super Bowl era, Sean McDermott's 8 playoff wins are the most of any head coach without actually getting to the Super Bowl. And then wider afield still, there's only one coach that's been at a franchise for more than 8 seasons and gone on to win his first Super Bowl. That's Bill Cowher with the Pittsburgh Steelers. He in his 14th season. So history tells you, if you've been there for 9 years and you haven't even got to a Super Bowl, you're not likely to win one. Josh Allen's only 29 years old. You said it there. He's still in the prime of his career. Now is the time if you're going to pull the trigger. But be careful what you wish for. Totally. Memories are short. Prior to Sean McDermott getting to Buffalo, what were they? They were perennial losers. And you can shout from the rooftops that it was Bill Belichick's New England Patriots with Tom Brady, the greatest of all time there. The Bills weren't even challenging them.
No.
They were bottom basement feeders, picking in the top 10 of the draft on a fairly regular basis. So he's turned that into a winning culture from a losing culture. And the other phrase I keep hearing is he's a fantastic leader of men. You saw players, Dion Dawkins amongst them. Brian Dawkins? Dion Dawkins? It's one of Dawkins.
Dion.
Dion, thank you. Going to social media yesterday and signaling his support for Sean McDermott. And let's not forget, only several seasons ago, the whole Damar Hamlin incident on primetime television in Cincinnati. Hamlin, touch wood, appears to have made a full recovery. He's played NFL football since. But the way McDermott led that locker room through all that, that was a hard time. And they kept winning, by the way, in the process as well. So I'm very much with you. As a person, No doubt at all about the character of Sean McDermott as a professional coach. I have no question marks about that either. Whichever organisation snaps him up, and an organisation will, you are getting somebody in the building who will transform the culture. And if what we've seen during his time as a DC in Carolina is anything to go by, and a head coach in Buffalo, that you are going to suddenly become a winning organisation. A tough decision made by Buffalo. Time will tell whether it's right.
And I think, just to say, Richard, that if you are Arizona, if you are Baltimore, if you are Cleveland, but especially those who have genuinely struggled for numerous years now, and I know it's not easy necessarily in a division with especially if you look at Arizona, where right at this moment where you have got the Rams and the Seahawks and the 49ers, that's not an easy division to try and negotiate. But I think if you are looking for someone to turn a franchise around, you have got some serious options. You really do. And there was I was reading the other day, just to go off Buffalo for a second, I was reading about Mike McCarthy coming to coach in Pittsburgh, because there's another organisation who needs someone
Pittsburgh
at the top.
native.
Yeah, absolutely. And so he, I think was it his Green Bay, when he won the Super Bowl with Green Bay, was actually over Pittsburgh, I think, wasn't it? If memory serves.
Yep.
And that was
in Dallas 2010.
That's right. So there's lots of, I have to say, I do like it. I like this sort of, the rumour mill rolling and everyone having their opinions and trying to find the sources to see who's interviewed where and who likes whom and stuff. Because at this moment, like I say, Tampa Bay might have not got rid of their head coach, but I'm absolutely scouring the internet to see who we might get as our coordinators. And so there's a lot of tempting jobs out there.
And one of those, before we wrap this up and look ahead to
Miami,
two fantastic championship games this weekend, is obviously in Vegas with the Raiders. And notable last night, they hold the number 1 overall pick in the upcoming April draft. Both Tom Brady, Mark Davis, the owners of the Raiders, were in the building to see the collegiate championship game between the Miami Hurricanes and the Indiana Hoosiers. And who steals the show but the man nailed on to be the number 1 overall pick in the upcoming NFL draft, quarterback Fernando Mendoza. What a play, what a leader to effectively win the game for Indiana.
It was a brilliant game. I watched it out here, and I'm not massively across college football. I'll keep across some of the results and the rankings throughout the course of the season, but I do like this playoff. The playoff is fantastic now, rather than just getting the bowl games as they used to, and you start to follow it a little bit closer. But what a thrilling game. Brilliant. Carson Beck in Miami coming back. Reuben Bain Jr., there's a name that you're going to be looking out for in next year's draft, the defensive end or the edge rusher for Miami, because that boy is a monster. He's going top 5. And whoever needs an edge rusher, he was closing in on Fernando Mendoza most of the night. An amazing play. Mike Shanahan is calling the plays for Indiana University. It's amazing. And he calls a quarterback draw. Mendoza is not a running quarterback as we would know him. He's not, a sort of, he's a more normal classic pocket passer, but he has the ability to use his legs. So I think the surprise element on that 4th down, and then he bursts through
and his toughness, because he took some hits.
Oh, he took some really hits. And at the end of the game, his arm was just bruised and battered from the absolute hammering that he'd taken. He had a bus lip as well. And for a quarterback, that tells NFL teams a lot, doesn't it? It tells a lot about his play on the field, the kind of character that he is. There was other talk about, with Vegas needing a head coach, that maybe Kurt Signetti, the Indiana University head coach, might make his way to Las Vegas as well. I think they'd be interested in not only having Mendoza as your top pick in the draft, but also to have his head coach come with him to Vegas. So lots to sort of keep an eye on there from that respect, but wonderful game. I will say, and we said a little bit this before we started recording, this is my opinion of Fernando Mendoza, is that he's a very good player, and he's a deserving Heisman Trophy winner. He speaks a little bit like he's on one of those podcasts that tells you how you should live your life better. So, like the journeys that you go through, and he uses all of these sort of cliquey words like synergy and stuff like that, and it weirds me out massively. That's my red flag against Fernando Mendoza. He speaks
all I'm going to say, Daggers, is given what you've told us on this week's pod about your cravings for alcohol, maybe you ought to listen to one of Mendoza's podcasts.
Cravings. I'm just being a spoiled brat that someone tells me I can't have something and so I want it. But yeah, he sounds a little bit like Stephen Bartlett or someone like that for me. So that's my warning, Vegas Raiders fans. That's my warning.
Well, on that note, and then we're going to look ahead to the championship games because we've been talking for half an hour already. The April draft is in the distance, but I did receive a message on social media this week from James McKenzie saying he's loved hearing you, Daggers, on the podcast.
Bless him.
Thinks we should do some more in the off season. Would love to hear a draft roundup as well as the season previews. Are you up for doing something around the NFL draft?
Absolutely. I'll be 100% up for that. And look, go. And I will say this to James, and it's lovely when you get messages that people enjoying what you're doing, and we love what we're doing, don't we? We have a right giggle doing this and venting our spleen on the NFL. But what I will say is that don't expect that I will know the hand size measurement of an offensive tackle who's a fourth round projection from the University of, wherever, Syracuse State.
That's the sort of information I'm looking for, Daggers.
I won't know that, or what his vertical leap is. I'll know who did the 40 fastest. That's about my limit. But we can have a good giggle about it and a good gas, especially on what teams may need and who's available and who might be coming out in the projections. I'd be well up for that. I'm sure you will be as well, because you love a bit of draft, don't you?
In which case, consider it signed, sealed and delivered. James McKenzie, you get your wish. There will be a draft special of Graves on Gridiron with myself and Charles Dagnall coming up. But that is in the distance.
Reg.
Yes.
Should we get a guest on who knows what they're talking about a bit more as well?
I'll open the contacts book. Don't worry, we'll take care of it.
Thanks, mate.
That is all in the distance, though. Of a more pressing concern this weekend is who will be going on to Santa Clara Levi Stadium on February the 8th to contest Super Bowl 60. And those game previews are next on Graves on Gridiron.
Graves on Gridiron with Richard Graves.
Okay, welcome back to the show. Two big games this weekend. The AFC Championship game with the Patriots going up to Denver to play the Broncos. The NFC Championship game, an all NFC West affair. The LA Rams going to the Pacific Northwest to face the Seahawks. The first of those on Sunday night. I believe it's an 8 p.m. UK kickoff time. It might be 8:30, but we'll check on that. It's the Patriots going to Denver. The Patriots are 4.5-point favourites. And if you have been living in a box and don't know why, and are screaming, what? It is all because the big news to come out of Denver's divisional round win, of course, last weekend, was that Bo Nix is gone for the rest of the season on what looked like a fairly innocuous play. We're told by Sean Payton it was the penultimate play of the game. He suffered a broken bone in his ankle. He's had surgery this week. His season is over. Step up, Jarrett Stidham. This is a major factor in this game, Daggers.
Oh, it's huge. And I was devastated because you want to see best on best. You want to, the number one seeded Denver Broncos against a side that might very well has turned from a 4-win side into a championship game contender. And I realise there are, and like I say, 4.5 points it sounds about right to me, to be perfectly honest, because the Patriots haven't really put a footstep wrong. Their defence is playing lights out at this moment in time. Drake May is just so very comfortable. You can see, even though it's only his second year, just think that he looks like the guy. And Bo Nix in a similar kind of way, slightly different quarterbacks. I think Bo Nix is a little bit more gunslingery than, if that's a word. I think he's a little bit more like that mentally. Yeah, it is now. But I think mentally than Drake May, who's a little bit more calm and composed, but you can get the sort of real X factor moments from Bo Nix. And I think it's just a damn shame. And you wait for these games. Now, this is not to say, I'll tell you what's good from a Broncos perspective. Jarrett Stidham is no rookie. He's a veteran presence. And wherever he's been, they've liked his attributes. He was up at New England, I think, wasn't he? For some time as well.
He was drafted by New England. First year he was drafted Tom Brady as his backup.
Exactly. And then being in Denver, Sean Payton knows him, likes him, has kept him around. He's got a week with the first team, so that gives him opportunity to get reps in practice. But it isn't still necessarily your number one guy, and so I think that is he's got to face up to a New England defense who are slavering at the thought that they're not going up against Bo Nix, that they're going to put some pressure on him, they're going to make it so tough. This New England defense, Richard, I mean, what do you think? That not only just the pass rush, the big interior line that they've got, but this secondary has been playing so well. I think it's going to be maybe too tough for a backup to come in against this New England defense.
Well, this New England Patriots defense is transformed in the image of their head coach, Mike Vrabel. They are quick. Yep. They fly around the ball. They played sideline to sideline. They gave CJ Stroud no time at all on Sunday night, forcing 5 turnovers in the game and constantly keeping their offense one step ahead of whatever Houston were doing. And you look at what they're going up against now. No Bo Nix. Troy Franklin at wide receiver left the game at the weekend. Pat Bryant is also on the sideline. So now you're looking at Cortland Sutton, the unquestioned number one. Of course, tight end Evan Engram was lost to the season with a torn labrum in mid-December. You've got Marvin Mims Jr., who I think I'm right in saying initially was predominantly a special teams returner. Well, he's surely going to have an enhanced role in this game. You're going to rely on the rookie running back, RJ Harvey, a little bit more. I did see a report suggesting that J.K. Dobbins might be ready to return.
Right, because he was put on IR, wasn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, he was. We'll have to see the injury report as the week goes on. But if he's anything like 100% and able to offer something to that offense, that will be invaluable. But you look at this New England Patriots defense, ranked 8th overall in the regular season, 9th defending the pass, 6th defending the run, and 4th in points allowed, giving up fewer than 19 at 18.8 a game. It looks a ginormous task, especially when you align it with what offensively they've done. Ranked 3rd overall, 4th in passing, 6th in running the football, 2nd in points on the board, 28.8 points a game. Everything seems to point up. But, and there's always a but, the reason that the Broncos gave up draft compensation to get Sean Payton out of New Orleans as their head coach was for his experience and moments like this. You touched upon it there a few seconds ago. Jarrett Stidham isn't in Denver by accident. He was handpicked from Sean Payton. Mm-hmm. Payton saw what he did in Vegas. He got traded from New England to the Las Vegas Raiders. And when Derek Carr got injured a couple of seasons ago, he played the last couple of games, including one against the San Francisco 49ers. Now, the Raiders ultimately lost that game. I think it might have been in overtime by a field goal, but it was a close game. He didn't disgrace himself in that instance. And Sean Payton said, you know what, you'll do for me as the backup over here. And he's been impressed to the extent that he gave him another contract, another 2-year deal as well. So he's been around this organization for a period of time now. He knows the offense. There is a relationship there with him and the head coach. And you can better believe that Sean Payton will have seen what New England have been doing, and he will draw up a scheme to put Stidham in the best possible chance to succeed. Do not expect to see Stidham hold onto the ball long. Expect the ball to come out quick and early and often, and there will be wrinkles in there for the run game as well. Believe me, this is what the Broncos will rely on this weekend if they're to have any chance. And you look at what they've done, it's not like their offense with Bo Nix has been lighting things up. It's all pretty much middle of the pack. Fine, they were 10th overall, but 16th in running the ball, 14th in points scored. They tend to look after it. So this is a team based around its defense. And if defense wins championships, this unit is going to have to come and play to win this one for Denver this weekend.
Well, there's obviously, I mean, if I'm Sean Payton and I'm trying to draw up a scheme, what are the things, I'm going to sort of want to play a percentage game, am I not? I'm going to want, in the thin air of Mile High, I'm going to want to keep possession of the ball. I'm going to want to tire that New England.
The All Blacks aren't playing this game,
they're not playing. No, they're not. It's because they're out here in India. You want to have possession of the ball and you want to control time of possession. So as you say, the little short passes, when the quarterback's got it for, a second and a half, just flipping it out to his playmakers and just chunking your way down the field with the running game as well. And you want to tire that defense out. You want to have long drives. That's what you want as the Denver Broncos. And you want to try and sort of keep hold of the ball so their offense, A, doesn't have it, and B, you're keeping their defense on the field. That is the way I would scheme it for the Denver Broncos as well, knowing that you've got a backup in Jared Stidham. And I think if he manages to find a way, and there's, talk about the running game, that doesn't just mean just blasting it up the centre or going off tackle. I'm sort of get you a wide receiver, get Mims involved in your running game. Jet sweeps, reverses, line them up in different formations, and just use these gadget players like a Mims is to just chunk your way down, and try and keep it close. That is the key. You try and keep it close. Because if your defense is on the field for any length of time, I just think that the New England Patriots will have too much. The other thing I think is that the fact that you picked the Denver Broncos to be your Super Bowl champions and their starting quarterback has just been injured and got a broken ankle.
This is a problem.
And I think secretly you're absolutely devastated. So I wish nothing but the best for Bo Nix, and I want him to get better, and I wish he was playing. But a small part of me, is just having a small giggle inside that your chances of actually your Nostradamus-like prophecy is not possibly going to come true. Remember, this is the New England Patriots were my dark horses for the season, so it's your absolute guaranteed Super Bowl winners versus the dark horses at Mile High. Ha ha! Cannot wait.
After all that hot air has been sucked out of the room, which way are you going? The Patriots started this game on Sunday night as 4-point favourites. It went to 5.5 on Monday. As we record this, the Patriots go to Denver as 4.5-point favourites.
I am taking the New England Patriots to win by 7 or over. I've got the New England Patriots winning.
Wow.
I think this is too big of a blow. I think New England Patriots are full of belief in the way that their defense is playing. I think they have completely been sucked into the vortex of the Mike Vrabel experience, and I think they are going back to the Super Bowl.
Well, how do you follow that? Well, I'll be honest with you. When I saw on Monday 5.5 points, I thought that's too big a margin. That really does make me sway towards Denver. But you've lost Bo Nix, your starting quarterback. Even though I don't think he's played quite up to the level I expected this season, he was still playing well and getting better over the last 2 months. So you're down him. You've got a quarterback starting his first game of the season in the championship game. That's only happened once before in the modern era. Do you know who that was, Daggers?
Nick Foles?
Roger Staubach.
Roger Staubach. When did Nick Foles come in for Carson Wentz? Was it towards the back end?
Nick Foles came in. If it wasn't the final game of the season, it was the final couple of games.
It was the final.
He played the wild card round. Yeah.
Okay. Roger Staubach.
Roger Staubach in 1973 against Washington, and the Dallas Cowboys went on to lose that game 26-3. So it's not a great omen if you're Jarrett Stidham and the Denver Broncos. And this puts me in a bind. I'm not going to lie to you. On the face of it, I've been really impressed with what New England have done. and it irks me to say it, but they are in pole position to go to this game. And yet, history tells me that in the last 20 years, this is the third time the Denver Broncos have been to the AFC Championship game. The last two were both against New England, both in Denver, and the Denver Broncos' record in those games are 2-0. They are undefeated. You look at the defense, as good as the Patriots are, this is a Broncos unit that ranks number 2 overall in defense, 7th defending the pass, 2nd against the run, 3rd in points allowed, giving 18.3 a game. They have the best defensive back in the NFL in their secondary for me in Patrick Surtain. You see what they did when the game was on the line last week against Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. And I keep going back to that game they played against Dallas in this very stadium in October. The number 1 ranked offense came into town. The Broncos hadn't done anything, and Peyton challenged his team to show who they really are, and they delivered. Well, this weekend, guess what? You're down the face of your franchise. You're starting quarterback Bo Nix. Defense, it's time to stand up. Are you as good as everybody thinks you are? Are you as good as everybody outside this organization says you are? Well, it's a show me league, and now is the time to show me. Patrick Surtain, Nick Bonito, step up. This is your time. You're 4.5-point dogs at home, a place where you've only lost once in the last 2 years. Give me the Denver Broncos to cover this at plus 4.5 points.
God.
They're my team for the Super Bowl, and I am riding the Broncos in the AFC Championship this weekend.
They don't have their quarterback. You're going with the Denver Broncos with a guy who's been picking his nose on the bench. This is a championship game against the New England Patriots. You are mad. I realise you are sat there smugly looking at your record against me over the course of this playoff period.
7-3 against the line. Dennis.
Yes, well, very, very good. Congratulations to you. But this is where Richard Graves comes unstuck. This is where his boldness for sticking with the true identity of his Super Bowl team from the very outset comes to bite him in the backside.
You say that. I say I'm a perfect 10-0 in outright winners. I'm doubling down on this. Not only am I saying that the Broncos cover the spread, I'm saying that the AFC is represented by these same Denver Broncos come February the 8th in Santa Clara, because that is the last time they were in the Super Bowl. That is the last time they won the Lombardi Trophy. And this is why Sean Payton is in the building. Defense wins championships. You have home field advantage. I've seen enough from Drake May last weekend to say he has that little tap on the ball with his hand just before he passes it. The Texans' defensive line got to him, so will Denver, and they will win this game on Sunday night. Give me the Broncos. We have a divergence of opinion. Daggers is laughing his side sore. He's giving us the perfect soundbite.
Nurse! Nurse! Nurse!
There's no need to call the ambulance right now. This ticker's going nicely. Thank you very much, Daggers. So now I've given you something to laugh at. It's he who laughs last laughs the loudest. Remember that. Let's move on to the NFC Championship.
You had to remember
game.
that, didn't you? You almost forgot that phrase. You almost forgot it, but you just pulled it back in the nick of time.
A bit like the Broncos D will do this weekend.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God.
So, given that we're agreed that Denver are going to Super Bowl 60, let's look at who they'll be facing in that game. The NFC Championship. Rams, Seahawks. In the Pacific Northwest, the Seahawks, the number 1 seeded team in the NFC. No surprise they start this game as favourites. 2.5-point favourites, to be precise, on the line. Mike McDonald, take a bow. What a job he's done in his first year as head coach up there.
Has he ever? I mean, unbelievable job. And we hark back to the Legion of Boom days, and there are parallels to be had. Obviously, it's a different set of players, but I actually think this is a better defense than that Legion of Boom time. I really do. I think they are quality across. You talk about the defense flying around, the speed of the New England defense, and I think there's only one defense that possibly is quick. We've seen some great defenses, by the way. And look, it's a points league. It's an offense-driven league, and they want to see points on the board. But you look at the way that New England and that Houston and that Seattle have played over recent or the recent season or weeks, and it's just been stellar. Goodness me, they're coached so well, and have of course
Absolutely.
got some sensational players on their side. But Mike McDonald, again, there was talk when Pete Carroll was fired off, people were still umming and ahhing about the fact that, Pete's won us a Super Bowl and he should be here and he should decide when to go. And, Seattle pulled the plug and they were happy to let Geno go. And Geno was a playoff, they were always in and around the mix for the playoffs when Geno and Pete Carroll were there. But they've gone, no, John Schneider still there in charge, has drafted great. And you've got to give a huge plaudits to the job that the sort of the back room or the hierarchy of the Seattle Seahawks have done. They've been stellar, and going and signing Sam Darnold, Minnesota. How are you feeling now that Darnold is potentially going to the Super Bowl, and you allowed him to go and back JJ McCarthy? I think they've been. As there's the quarterback play from Darnold has wilted in the second half of the season, but overall, I think they've been a fantastic unit, haven't they?
I think they've been outstanding, and their defense has just got better and better as the season goes on. And we've mentioned it before. You look at Sheldon Rankins, DeMarcus Lawrence. These are veterans that have come into the team, and they've made a difference. And then on the back end as well, they've had players, Ernest Jones amongst them, that make plays on the ball. And the way they handled the San Francisco 49ers last weekend, and I hear what the 49ers are saying. Look, it was a shortened week of preparation, but that doesn't matter in the context of that game. The injuries didn't matter. What impressed me most was Seattle learned from the regular season closing game when they won that. Was it 13-6 or it was a relatively tight game. Anyway, whatever the scoreline was at the end. But they learned from that, and then, my God, did they lay the wood on them last weekend. 41 points to 3. That was as complete a performance as I can remember. Remember, the background to it as well was that Sam Darnold had injured in some respect an intercostal muscle. I saw I saw Kyle Shanahan talking about him taking Taradol after the game, which I'm no medical expert, but the comments I've seen on social media tend to suggest that that's a fairly strong painkiller. Well, whatever it was, it worked because he played well in the game, and they had their way with a 49ers side that had just gone into the home of the Super Bowl champions and knocked them out of the race. So I'm really impressed with Seattle, and it will take a perfect performance to win up there this weekend. That being said, go on, sorry.
No. Carry on.
That being said, look at who their opponents are. The Los Angeles Rams, Sean McVay. He will turn 40 this Saturday. As it stands, at the age of 39, he has 10 NFL playoff wins. Do you know where that puts him in the modern Super Bowl era at the age of 39?
Ooh. Go on.
He is number 1 in playoff wins at the age of 39. The next best, shared by John Madden, John Gruden, Mike Tomlin, and Zach Taylor, all of which have 5.
Good God.
So he turns 40 this Saturday, 24 hours before the game. And let's not forget, this was a number 1 seed that was effectively in the lap of the LA Rams before they lost shocking on the road in Carolina. And you look at the 2 games they've had in the regular season against Seattle. They've split them. One apiece. It was the Rams that won the home game on November the 16th, 21 points to 19. If memory serves me correctly, they came from behind in that game. And then they lost in overtime on December the 18th, 38-37 in Seattle. And if you recall, that game was won by virtue of Mike McDonald saying, we're not settling for a tie, we'll go for 2. And they pulled it off.
We'll go for 2.
So these have been two tough games, and there's been enough in them for me to have confidence in saying the Rams will hold no fear for the Seattle Seahawks defense this weekend. They will respect them, but they will not fear them. And if you had to ask me to put my neck on the line now, which game's going to be the better contest, I'm taking this one between the Rams and Seattle.
Yeah. It's the one that I've got circled. And the two contests were so close, hence why the line is so close. And as forceful as I was on my pick for the AFC Championship game, this one I can genuinely say, and with no, I'm not with no splinters. I just don't know, Richard. I just don't know. There are so many pros and very few cons for either side to take the win up here. I mean, and if you've got to lean on one, I thought the Rams were brilliant in Chicago the other night. Yeah, not everything went well. I thought some of the play calling was a little bit fishy towards the back end. Why would you not put the ball in the hands of your MVP quarterback rather than running the ball? I found that a little bit strange that McVay did that. But be that as it may, to go in a divisional round in weather that there was up in Chicago with a fan base that has longed for success for so long, it was absolutely crazy. And also, when Caleb Williams has just pulled it out the bag on fourth down and taken it to overtime with the throw that he made, the air can get taken out of a team a little bit. And thinking you were almost there. You were one play from being in the championship game, and then, oh no, Cole Kmet has the ball in the end zone. And so to actually go out and get victory up there, you've got to say, fair play to the Los Angeles Rams, but they are led by a veteran Super Bowl winning presence in Matt Stafford and also the coaching of Sean McVay. And Stafford doesn't get flustered in these situations. And, do you go against, you look at home field advantage for Seattle. The 12s are going to make it so hard for the Rams, but they've been there. They know what to expect. Sam Darnold, his first championship game, how's he going to respond to the sort of pressure of that? So there's lots of things that we don't know. What I do know is these two sides, as you mentioned, have faced off twice already this season. The games were stellar. They were so close and so tight, and why should it be anything other than that in the NFC Championship game? As for picking someone, you said it was 2.5 point Seattle.
It is
line, wasn't it? I'm gonna go with McVay and Stafford. And I think it's going to be supersonically close. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see overtime up in Seattle for this game either. I'm going to go with McVay and with Stafford and with Puka Nacua and with the defensive front that Los Angeles have. I think they can cause problems for Sam Darnold. I think they could possibly fluster him. But I think that their offensive line has improved. I'm going either way. I'm going to go with Stafford and McVay.
Final answer. Do you want to phone a friend?
Final answer. Final answer. Final answer. But you can see how tough it is and which way you can flip-flop. I was going to say about the pressure the defensive front can get on Seattle, but the Seattle offensive line has greatly improved. Look at the way they're running the ball. Gray Zabel was a sensational draft selection in, the way that Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet have been able to run the ball this year. There's so many. This is why we love it, and this is why we watch. This is why I can't wait. This is why I can't decide, but I'm going to plump for McVay and Stafford on the road.
Well, I'm like you. I've gone one way and the other on this one. I do think it's going to be that close in the game. You've just heard me with the AFC Championship make my case for defense wins championships. And you look at what Seattle bring to the table, the 6th ranked defense, top 10 against the pass, against the run, takeaways, number 1 in points allowed, 17.2 points per game. And then I look at the Rams, and they've had a tough game on the road, going coast to coast to win in Carolina. They've then had a tough game on the road, winning in the elements in Chicago. These will be energy-sapping games, and I think, has it taken just too much out of them? And then I look at McVay and his record. I look at the team that he's built. I look at what the Seattle offense has. As good as it's been, it's a top 10 offense, number 3 in points scored, 28.4 a game, but Zach Charbonnet isn't going to be in the backfield. He was the one down point to come out of the win over San Francisco. He's done for the season. And also, I look at Sam Darnold. We know he's banged up. He had to take medication to help him through the 49ers game. And what we know from last year is when the pressure's on, and we've seen it a couple of times in regular season games this year, and the game gets tight, so too does Sam Darnold. There's a reason that the two games between these two in the regular season have been tight and one-score games this year. It's because the Rams make them so. I'm going to look at the LA Rams and say, you've won once at home. You've been one of the few teams to beat the Seattle Seahawks this season. You lost one against them on the road because they went for a 2-point conversion in overtime when it's winner takes all. That same scenario rises up this Sunday. I don't think they go for the 2-point conversion because you can tie it and live to fight another day, or you can lose anything. That's when you see how big are your marbles. I'm going to go with the experience of Matthew Stafford here and Sean McVay. I like what they've come through. You can say those two road games take something out of you. You can also argue they make you battle-tested and hardened coming into one of the toughest places to play in the National Football League. I don't have the same faith in Sam Darnold. This is going to be a heck of a game. But as 2.5-point dogs on the road, they haven't lost a game to these Seattle Seahawks by that margin, and they're not going to lose it if they lose it by that margin this weekend. As it happens, I think they win and go on to play Super Bowl 60. So give me the Los Angeles Rams at plus 2.5. Give me the two underdogs going into this weekend to go to Santa Clara in the Bay Area and contest it for the Lombardi Trophy on February the 8th.
Do you know what? I wouldn't. But had you genuinely turned around and said, I'm going to Seattle, I would have gone, no, unlike your bonkers Denver Broncos pick for the AFC Championship game, had you turned around and gone Seattle, I'd have gone, yeah, I can see that. And that's the nature of it. Because it is so close, I wouldn't have had any qualms had you gone Seattle, or had I done the same thing. I'm sure you would have sort of had a similar sort of vein. It's not an outlandish pick for either of these. It is, I agree with you. I believe that the winner of this game will go on to win Super Bowl 60. I just think the NFC is stronger this year.
Whoa. Hold your horses there, Daggers. I never said the winner of this game wins it all in Santa Clara.
I thought you did.
No, I said they go on to contest it for the Lombardi Trophy.
I thought you said you went to go on to win it.
Let's
you see, where are your marbles now? Where are your marbles now, Richard?
This is what
Daggers, one step ahead.
This is what you call a tease. We've got to keep the listeners and viewers interested for the Super Bowl 60 preview. And by the way, I took the Broncos to win it all this year. I'm just saying that.
Yes, yeah, you did say that. And I must get my hearing checked. It's the humidity of India. We'll edit all of this.
And the lack of alcohol. Listen, Daggers, it's been a blast as always. Whichever way it goes this weekend, we are in for two cracking games.
Oh, yeah.
We're down to the final four. Only two can go on. That means two teams are going to be left heartbroken when it's all said and done on Sunday night. As always, Daggers, it's a pleasure. If people do want to get in touch with us, they can do so on social media. For me, it's Richard Graves1 on X. It's RDG Media UK on Instagram and Richard Graves RDG Media on Facebook. How about yourself, Daggers?
It's just Charles Dagnall, at Charles Dagnall on X, at Charles Dagnall on Instagram. And do get in touch with us. We love hearing from you. And anything, if you want to have a pop at us, if you've got a question, or if you think one of our opinions is ridiculous, like, say, the Denver Broncos winning this weekend, get in touch with us. We'd love to hear from you. It's great fun. Love hearing from you.
10-0 in outright picks, Daggers. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, and this is going to be the same thing that you're just going to badger me with over the course of the week. But we do love it. I love it, and thank you for inviting me on every week, especially during the playoffs, because this is fun for us. This is what we NFL fans live for, these weekends and this playoff period, and it's just thrilling. Cannot wait for the weekend.
I've just realised as well, in the process of these picks, you have very graciously conceded victory to me over the course of the playoffs.
I don't think there was anything gracious about it.
I thank you. Very magnanimous of you,
Statistically, yes, you have won, but there was nothing gracious about it whatsoever.
Right, well, listen, enjoy what remains of your time out in India. Are you back in time for the Super Bowl, or are you out there for a few more weeks?
Super Bowl is what date?
February the 8th.
I'm back. I'm just back. So, yeah, back on the 6th. So,
Fine. In which case,
I'll be
we will do the preview whilst you're still in India.
Yes, we will, and I look forward to. I'm looking forward to getting home and watching it and stuff. But yeah, looking forward to continuing my time out here. There's a little bit of India for you all, and look forward to speaking to you next week, mate.
Awesome as always, Daggers. Really appreciate it. Enjoy the 2 championship games this Sunday, and to everybody else, thanks for listening. Enjoy what's left of the NFL season. 3 games remain before we see who lifts the Lombardi Trophy at Super Bowl 60. But for now, so long, everybody.
Subscribe to Graves on Gridiron wherever you listen to podcasts.
And keep up to date with the latest on Twitter. Search for Richard Graves 1.
That's Richard Graves, the number 1.